The Ten Commandments in 1956 shook Hollywood with its monumental scenes and legendary cast. Yet that majestic light concealed the tragic fates of its stars in real life. Many of the actors in the film passed away in deep suffering, from illness and loneliness to broken marriages and scandals. Let us explore the stories behind their tragic departures. Charlton Heston as Moses Charlton Heston, born John Charles Carter on October 4, 1923, in Evanston, Illinois. He was 33 years old when he played Moses in the epic The Ten Commandments in 1956. His portrayal of the prophet raising his staff to lead the Israelites turned him into an eternal symbol of Hollywood cinema. The role opened the door that placed him among the greatest stars of the 20th century. Heston's childhood was marked by loss when his parents divorced at the age of 10. This upheaval drove the frail, shy boy to seek escape in art and imagination. Later, he married Lydia Clark in 1944, beginning a union that lasted more than 6 decades. Yet, family life was far from serene, as Heston was often consumed by political and public pressures. Lydia became his anchor but also bore the loneliness and pain of watching her husband throw himself into heated controversies. His career was filled with contradictions. He was once a powerful voice against racial discrimination, standing alongside Martin Luther King during the Civil Rights Movement. Yet years later, he became president of the National Rifle Association, a role that drew fierce public criticism. These tensions grew heavier as illness struck. In 1998, he was treated for prostate cancer, and by 2002, he publicly announced that he was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. The illness robbed him of memory and gradually turned the screen hero into a fragile figure within his own home. On April 5, 2008, Charlton Heston died at his Beverly Hills home, with Lydia, his wife of 64 years, by his side. He was 84 years old, and his death was later confirmed to have been caused by pneumonia in the final stage of Alzheimer's. He was cremated, and his ashes were returned to his family. At the close of his life, he left behind a fortune of around $40 million, earned partly from his legendary roles and partly from a legacy that remained controversial. Yul Brynner as Ramesses. Yul Brynner, born Yuli Borisovich Brynner on July 11, 1920, in Vladivostok, Russia. When he was 36 years old, he portrayed Pharaoh Ramesses II in The Ten Commandments in 1956, a powerful role directly opposing Charlton Heston's Moses. His image as a proud yet lonely Egyptian king propelled Brynner to international stardom and cemented his place in film history. Brynner's childhood was filled with loss when his wealthy family was stripped of its fortune after the Russian Revolution. His father abandoned the family for another woman, leaving his mother and him to face years of uncertainty. During his teenage years in Paris, Brynner fell into drug addiction at just 17 and had to be hospitalized in Switzerland to undergo painful rehabilitation. He escaped drugs, but in exchange he clung to another, more dangerous habit: smoking. From the age of 12, cigarettes became both his companion and his silent destroyer, slowly eroding his health. His love life was equally turbulent. He married 4 times, yet each union ended in heartbreak, through loud divorces and broken relationships. His first wife, Virginia Gilmore, endured his infidelity. Doris Kleiner left while their happiness was still fragile. Even with his third wife, Jacqueline Simone, he could not keep the family together due to his womanizing and constant touring. Brynner's children grew up largely without their father's presence, while he immersed himself in the stage spotlight to mask his everyday loneliness. In 1983, Brynner was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, the result of decades of chain smoking. On October 10, 1985, he died at New York Hospital at the age of 65. His body was cremated and his ashes buried at the Saint-Michel-de-Bois-Aubry Monastery in France. Before his death, Brynner left behind a painful but sincere message. "Now that I'm gone, I tell you, don't smoke." His net worth was estimated at around $10 million, but his greatest legacy was the cautionary tale of a gifted artist who paid dearly for his self-destructive habits, leaving audiences with lasting compassion. Anne Baxter as Nefertiti. Anne Baxter was born on May 7, 1923, in Michigan City, Indiana. At 33 years old, she played Nefertiti in Cecil B. DeMille's epic The Ten Commandments, 1956. With her regal beauty and powerful acting, Baxter portrayed a seductive yet calculating Egyptian queen, helping elevate the film into an immortal Hollywood masterpiece. The role also marked the peak of her career, placing her alongside the leading stars of her era. Yet Baxter's life off-screen was filled with sorrow. She married actor John Hodiak and had a daughter, but their marriage quickly ended. She later admitted that the relationship had grown so cold that even an argument might have brought a sense of warmth. After the divorce, she sought happiness again with Randolph Galt, a cattle rancher in Australia. She followed him to a remote land, but the harsh and lonely lifestyle caused the marriage to fall apart. Baxter returned to the United States with her daughter in bitterness and disappointment, carrying yet another painful wound. In later years, the actress once again hoped for peace when she married stockbroker David Klee. But tragedy struck when Klee suddenly died just a few months after the wedding, leaving Baxter alone in the large Connecticut house they had barely begun to make a home. These successive blows in her personal life left her steeped in loneliness. She threw herself into work, appearing on stage and television, but her health declined due to smoking and drinking. Behind the dazzling lights, she endured long nights of solitude and an emptiness no success could fill. On December 4, 1985, while hailing a taxi on Madison Avenue in New York, Anne Baxter collapsed from a brain aneurysm. She remained in a coma for 8 days at Lenox Hill Hospital before passing away on December 12, 1985, at the age of 62. At the end of her life, Baxter left behind an estimated net worth of $5 million, accumulated from her distinguished film career and her prestigious family legacy. Edward G. Robinson, as Dathan Edward G. Robinson, born Emanuel Goldenberg on December 12, 1893, in Bucharest, Romania. He was 63 years old when he played Dathan, the betrayer of Moses, in The Ten Commandments, 1956. With his sharp features and commanding voice, Robinson brought to life a devious character, making the role a significant part of his career that spanned over half a century. Robinson's life began in hardship. His Jewish family fled Romania due to anti-Semitic violence. In New York, he grew up in the slums of the Lower East Side, forced to learn survival amid poverty and prejudice. Those years forged his strength, but also left him with deep scars. When he entered Hollywood and rose to fame playing gangsters, he thought the past was behind him. But in the 1950s, Robinson was swept into harsh political battles, summoned to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee. Though he was eventually cleared, he lost many important roles and lived under the shadow of public suspicion. The political ordeal also led to personal collapse. His nearly 30-year marriage to Gladys Lloyd ended in 1956. Robinson was forced to sell his prized art collection, which had been his greatest passion and sanctuary away from the gritty roles he played. Losing both his family and his cherished artworks left him devastated, as if part of his soul had been stripped away. Though he later remarried, Robinson never fully escaped the darkness of those years, with a damaged career and incomplete happiness haunting him. On January 26, 1973, Edward G. Robinson died at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles after a long battle with bladder cancer at the age of 79. At the time of his death, he left behind an estate valued at about $50 million, most of it from his film career and his remarkable art collection. Yvonne De Carlo as Sephora. Yvonne De Carlo, born Margaret Yvonne Middleton on September 1, 1922, in Vancouver, Canada. She played Sephora, the gentle yet strong-willed wife of Moses, in Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, 1956, at the age of 34. Her portrayal of the resilient woman standing by the prophet won De Carlo the Laurel Award for Best Supporting Actress and became a shining milestone in her already illustrious career. De Carlo's childhood was marked by loss. Her father abandoned the family when she was only 3, leaving mother and daughter to live in poverty and instability. Her mother, whose own dreams had been cut short, placed all her hopes on Yvonne, pushing her into singing and dancing lessons from an early age. When she entered Hollywood, De Carlo was quickly celebrated as the queen of Technicolor, but the glamour came with loneliness and a string of broken romances. She loved Billy Wilder and later had a passionate affair with billionaire Howard Hughes, yet both men left her with a wounded heart. Even her engagements ended bitterly. Her official marriage to stuntman Robert Morgan once promised stability, but fate struck again. In 1962, Morgan suffered a horrific on-set accident when heavy logs crushed his body, leaving him disabled for years. While her husband struggled, De Carlo was forced to work relentlessly on stage and television to support the family. Endless tours and constant arguments strained the marriage, and by 1973 they divorced, leaving her with another unhealed wound. In her later years, De Carlo lived quietly after suffering a stroke in 1998, eventually moving into the motion picture and television country house in Woodland Hills. On January 8, 2007, she died of heart failure at the age of 84. Her net worth was estimated at around $2 million, largely from her long career in film, television, and theater. Debra Paget, as Lilia Debra Paget, born Debra Lee Griffin on August 19, 1933, in Denver, Colorado. When she was only 23 years old, she played Lelia, the gentle and suffering slave girl in The 10 Commandments, 1956. Her character became a symbol of sacrifice and faith, tied forever to Paget's fragile yet deeply emotional screen presence. This role secured her place in one of the most iconic films in Hollywood history. Behind the glamour, Paget endured immense pressure from a childhood under strict control. Her mother, a former actress, forced her children into show business to fulfill her own unachieved dreams. Paget began performing at the age of 8, raised under harsh discipline and heavy expectations, with no chance for a normal childhood. As an adult, she became one of Hollywood's screen goddesses, but her personal life was turbulent with broken romances. Elvis Presley even proposed to her during the filming of Love Me Tender, yet the relationship quickly faded. Her official marriages also brought no lasting peace. In 1958, she married singer David Street, but the union lasted less than 3 months. In 1960, she wed director Bud Boeticher, only for the marriage to collapse after just 22 days. Her life took a dramatic turn when, in 1962, she married Louis Ling Chie-kung, the grandson of Chiang Kai-shek. The wedding shocked the world due to its ties with one of China's most powerful political families. They had one son, but cultural differences and family pressures led to divorce in 1980, leaving Paget deeply scarred. After the collapse of her third marriage, Paget withdrew from Hollywood and sought solace in faith. She became a devout Christian, stepping away from show business to live a quiet, private life. Today, at 92 years old, Debra Paget lives reclusively in the United States. Her net worth is estimated at $10 million, accumulated from her film career during Hollywood's golden age and her years linked to one of Asia's wealthiest families. John Derek as Joshua. John Derek, born Derek Delavan Harris, on August 12, 1926, in Hollywood, Los Angeles. He was chosen by director Cecil B. DeMille to play Joshua, the successor of Moses, in The 10 Commandments, 1956, when he was just 30 years old. The role brought Derek fame and the opportunity to become a major star. Yet behind the studio lights, his life took a darker path, where love, career, and family were overshadowed by controversy and pain. Derek's childhood and youth were shaped by the high expectations of parents who were both involved in the arts. His striking good looks quickly opened the doors of Hollywood, But his personal life soon became dominated by turbulent romantic choices. His first marriage, to ballet dancer Patti Bears, ended bitterly, leaving two small children to witness their parents' separation. The tragedy deepened when his son, Russell, was left permanently paralyzed after a motorcycle accident, while Derek's absence only widened the rift and grief within the family. His later relationships seemed only to extend the chain of suffering. He married Ursula Andress, but their marriage quickly fell apart amid infidelity. Afterwards, Linda Evans, who sacrificed much of her own career to stand by him, was abandoned when Derek fell in love with Bo Derek, then only 16 years old. The relationship sparked heavy criticism, with accusations of exploitation and moral corruption. Once Bo became his wife, Derek devoted much of his directing career to showcasing her body on screen, provoking public outrage and tying his name more to scandal than artistry. In his final years, John Derek lived quietly, marked by regret. On May 22, 1998, he died of heart failure in Santa Maria, California, at the age of 71. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $5 million, largely from photography and directing. His passing left Hollywood with a somber memory, a once dazzling actor who ultimately lost himself in personal mistakes and controversies. Cedric Hardwicke as Sethi. Sir Cedric Webster Hardwicke was born on February 19, 1893, in Lye, Worcestershire, England. At 63, he played Pharaoh Sethi in The Ten Commandments, 1956. His on-screen image of a commanding king showcased his immense talent and presence, but off-screen, Hardwicke's life was filled with bitterness and loss. His personal life was marked by misfortune. He married actress Helena Pickard in 1928, and they had a son, Edward Hardwicke. But the marriage ended in 1948 after conflicts and rumors of infidelity left his reputation badly damaged. Seeking new happiness with actress Mary Scott, he once again met with heartbreak, as the second marriage ended in separation in 1961. These repeated failures left him in chronic loneliness, and his later years were deprived of peace. Though his career shone brightly on the Shakespearean stage and in adaptations of great literary works, Hardwicke faced limitations in Hollywood. His heavy English accent cost him several major roles, despite his undeniable talent. He buried himself in stage work, exhausting himself in an attempt to forget his solitude, but his health steadily declined. A lifelong heavy smoker, his lungs were severely damaged, his breathing became labored, and each time he stepped onto the stage, it was a battle against his own body. On August 6, 1964, Cedric Hardwicke died in New York at the age of 71. The cause of death was chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, the result of years of smoking. His net worth at the time was about $1 million, a modest sum compared to a lifetime of artistic dedication. Nina Foch as Bethia. Nina Foch was born on April 20, 1924, in Leiden, the Netherlands. At 32, she was chosen to play Princess Bethia in the epic The Ten Commandments, 1956, a role that placed her among Hollywood's classic stars. Her radiant success on screen made her a familiar face to audiences, yet behind that elegant beauty was a life filled with wounds and silent sorrow. Throughout her decades-long career, Nina Foch appeared in more than 50 films and hundreds of television roles, even earning an Academy Award nomination for Executive Suite, 1954. But her personal life was stormy. She endured 3 failed marriages, beginning with actor James Lipton. The scandalous breakup in 1959 left her with an emotional wound that never healed. Later marriages to Dennis DeBrito and Michael Duell also ended in bitterness, deepening her depression and loneliness. Seeking refuge, Nina Foch poured her heart into teaching. She became a highly respected instructor at the USC School of Cinematic Arts for over 40 years, nurturing the passion of generations of young talents, including Julie Andrews and Edward Zwick. Though admired by her students, she secretly struggled with a rare bone marrow disorder. The illness gradually drained her health, weakening both her voice and strength, forcing her to spend her final years teaching while fighting disease. On December 5, 2008, Nina Foch passed away in Los Angeles at the age of 84, just one day after she had still been in the classroom. She left behind an estimated net worth of $3 million, earned mostly through her work in acting and teaching. Her passing not only closed the chapter of a gifted actress, but also left the public mourning a life that shone so brightly in Hollywood's light. Martha Scott, as Yokebel. Martha Ellen Scott was born on September 22, 1912, in Jamesport, Missouri. When she was 44 years old, she entered film history with her role as Yokebel, the biological mother of Moses, in The Ten Commandments, 1956. On screen, she conveyed the sacred power of maternal love when she placed her infant son in a basket and set him adrift on the Nile, a scene that moved audiences to tears and unintentionally reflected the painful losses she endured in real life. Scott's career began with Promise in Our Town, 1940, a role that earned her an Academy Award nomination in her very first film appearance. Yet Hollywood never considered her a true box office star, often pushing her toward Broadway and television. She was frequently cast as mothers or strong women, but her own life was far from easy. Her first marriage, to Carlton Alsop, ended in divorce, leaving her with a son. In 1946, she found new happiness with composer Mel Powell, but after decades together, their marriage too unraveled under strains and distances that could not be mended. Martha Scott endured not only Hollywood's neglect, but also the greatest pain of motherhood. Her son suffered a tragic accident that changed his life forever. She later watched her husband pass away in 1998, leaving her adrift in old age. Though she sought comfort in the theater and among colleagues, the loneliness grew heavier with time, making her life beyond the stage increasingly burdensome. On May 28, 2003, Martha Scott died in Van Nuys, California, at the age of 90. She was laid to rest beside her husband, Mel Powell, in the Jamesport Cemetery in her Missouri hometown. Her net worth was estimated at $2 million, mostly from her work in theater and television. Judith Anderson as Memnette. Judith Anderson was born on February 10, 1897, in Adelaide, South Australia. At 59, she was chosen to play Memnette in The Ten Commandments, 1956. Though her role as the strict and cold servant was not large, it reinforced her image as an actress of commanding presence, continuing the illustrious stage career she had built over decades on Broadway. Anderson's professional life soared brilliantly, but her private life was turbulent. She went through 2 marriages, both of which ended quickly, leaving an emptiness that could never be filled. She had no children and never found a lasting home life. Behind the spotlight and prestigious awards, Judith often returned to an empty room, forced to face unending loneliness. As old age approached, her health deteriorated, and she suffered from chronic pneumonia in her later years. She was celebrated as a symbol of classical theater, especially for her haunting performance as Medea in Euripides' play. She was also honored with the title of Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire in recognition of her outstanding contributions. Yet even this glory could not mask the silences of her personal life. The woman who once made audiences shiver with her powerful voice and piercing gaze lived alone in the end, with no children and no anchor. In her final years, she sank further into sadness as close friends and colleagues passed away one by one. On January 3, 1992, Judith Anderson died in Santa Barbara, California, after a severe bout of pneumonia at the age of 94. Her body was cremated, closing a long journey marked by both triumph and sorrow. Her net worth was estimated at around $4 million, mainly from her Broadway and film work. Her death shocked the public, leaving a great void in the arts and evoking deep sympathy for a woman whose private life was filled with pain behind the glamour. John Carradine as Aaron. John Carradine was born on February 5, 1906, in New York City. At 50, he played Aaron, the brother of Moses, in the epic The Ten Commandments, 1956. With his tall, thin frame, gaunt face, and deep, resonant voice, he left a memorable mark and affirmed himself as one of the emblematic figures of Hollywood's golden age. Yet his celebrated career was shadowed by a personal life full of pain. Carradine married 4 times, but all ended in divorce, leaving his children to grow up without the warmth of a stable family. His sons, David, Keith, and Robert Carradine, all followed him into acting, but their relationship with their father was strained. A chain of divorces and custody disputes plunged him into stress and debt, and the image of a father struggling with alcoholism left a lasting scar on his family. The weight of financial and emotional burdens slowly drove Carradine into ruin. He suffered from severe arthritis, and each step became an ordeal. Still, he forced himself to accept small roles in low-budget films just to survive. The glory of his youth faded, replaced by an aging artist adrift in a Hollywood that was rapidly changing. Loneliness and the torment of illness made his final years ones of exhaustion and sorrow. On November 27, 1988, John Carradine died in Milan, Italy, after multiple organ failure claimed his life at the age of 82. His body was buried at sea off the coast of California, closing a career that spanned decades. At the time of his death, he left behind a net worth of about $1 million, a small sum compared to the more than 200 films and countless roles that made his name. His passing left deep sadness, a reminder that behind Hollywood's brilliance was a man who lived in pain, misfortune, and solitude. Behind the grandeur of the 10 Commandments, 1956, were broken lives, tragic deaths, and fates that audiences will never forget. They left behind an immortal legacy for cinema, but also sorrow that still lingers in the hearts of fans. Do you think their real-life tragedies made the film even more haunting and unforgettable? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to discover more tearful stories behind Hollywood's glittering lights.